All right, Q Nation, Final Four, unexpected Final Four. I'm Jim Sinicropi coming at you on Monday, March 28, 2016, just one day removed from possibly the greatest comeback in Syracuse basketball history. And as you can see, not in the comfy confines of the FingerLakes1.com studio tonight, coming at you live from the Dunes Villas in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where last night watched this game on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean here on the edge of America. And I've got Brad Conner, the professor, holding on line. We're going to talk all about it. Real excited to talk about it. I, like most of you guys, just on cloud nine here with this unexpected Final Four run. And we're going to talk about the Gonzaga game, too. And also kudos to the lady, the Orange Lady, the Orange Woman. Still tough not to call them the Orange Woman, but the Lady Orange going to the Final Four too, which is this is just all incredible stuff here. So congratulations to Jim Boeheim. Congratulations to all the Syracuse fans, all the players. Congratulations to Trevor Cooney, who is, as far as I can tell, he is the only Syracuse Orange player to ever play in two Final Fours, Trevor Cooney. So we're going to talk all about it. The Upstate Orange Podcast is brought to you by Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Be sure to check out their mobile banking app or visit them online at mygenbank.com. And real quick before I bring Brad into the show, want to my big takeaway I think from this weekend is that what goes around comes around, and it seems like Syracuse and specifically Coach Boeheim have had such a tough go of it. And while by first appearance, they look to be as elite as any program, in the country, but yet we lag behind in national championships and Final Fours, and that's all kind of coming around now. It's kind of leveling out, and two Final Fours in 5 years, 3 Elite Eight in 5 years. One of those years we were ineligible, so literally 3 Elite Eights in Boeheim's last 4 tries. And what goes around comes around, and I think that Boeheim's program has evolved to the point where it's well suited for the NCAA tournament, and even a team like this can put it together and get us to the Final Four. So get used to it, Q's Nation, for the last few years that Boeheim's around. I have a feeling this won't be his last one. But anyways, I've been talking too much. Brad, how you doing? You're in Cincinnati. I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're going to talk some Syracuse basketball, Final Four style.
After that shot missed at the end of the ACC tournament game versus Pitt, that we would be sitting here on a Monday night, March 28th, talking about a Final Four team. I don't think anyone would think you were right.
Yeah, but here we are, and I tell you, that's the thing about it. To me, Brad, is that they did it against Virginia, because I tend to have an outlook, even when the chips are at their worst, that we're going to come back and pull it out. But against Virginia in the second half of that game, I honestly gave up hope. I gave up hope, and they turned it around and won the game. It was impossible odds against Virginia. Bennett with a double-digit lead heading into the second half for Virginia was 68-0. So, I mean, that to me was it was just so improbable that I still can't believe it happened.
Well, the website 538, the Nate Silver website, has this win probability as you're into the game, and they tell you exactly what they think the probability is of a team winning and losing in a certain circumstance, and it was close to 100% UVA's win probability about midway through the second half. They're up 15 points against a team that played a methodical, slow, physical defense. I admit I was in the same boat. I was slumped on the couch, just sort of thinking to myself what a nice run this was, and what an up and down season, and we'll remember it fondly for the late run that they had. But it was fun while it lasted, and then they just kind of gave us little glimmers of hope, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah. So here we are heading to our second Final Four. In the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years?
Second 4 years.
And
Sandwiched around one where they lost in the second round and one where they recused themselves.
So I think that before we get too far into this, we really got to point out the fact that Trevor Cooney has kind of done what we hoped he was going to do in terms of scaling back the shooting. The outside shooting, take it to the hole a little bit more and play within himself. I think we kind of owe some kudos to Trevor Cooney. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely completely agree with that. This is a senior leader that we were hoping to see. A guy that plays very solid defense, makes smart decisions. He airballed one late. Forces it at the end of the shot clock sometimes, but he's driving the ball. He made a couple of nice passes. He would drive and kick, drive and draw the defense. I mean, that's what you expect from a guard who's a senior, a backcourt guy who is a leader on this team. I think this is the guy that we were hoping we'd see, where he pick his spots, let the game come to him, not force the action too much, and just be a standout on defense. And Parentis hit some shots over the zone, and I think we're all sort of screaming at the TV to get out deeper and deeper on him. And sometimes it happens on Cooney's side, but a lot of times it happens at the top of the key, which is a tough spot against a 2-3. It's sort of you really got to communicate to be able to get out on a shooter who's literally straight away at the top of the key. But I don't necessarily blame him. It was a lot of the same situation with Wiltshire against Gonzaga, where you just couldn't defend it deep enough. You just don't think you have to defend the guy that's 25 feet out. Over your head again, so I don't put that all on Cooney's feet, but I think his defense was solid, and the offense, I think he's recognizing that the team, the flow moves better if they run it through Benajay and Richardson, and Leiden can extend, and I think maybe he's recognizing he probably is a third or fourth option on this team, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and for somebody that we've really, bashed on over the past few years, he's going to be the only Syracuse player to ever play it up to this point for two different Final Four teams. One, in the all history of Syracuse basketball, Trevor Cooney has that designation.
On that team, but he didn't play in the Final Four at all. Cooney will be the only guy who have played in the Final Four games for two different teams.
Yeah. And Benajay also was the year he sat out. So,
only played one game in that Final Four run. He played, I think, in the second round, a couple minutes of blowout, but he didn't play.
Well, so technically, then Coleman counts too.
Yeah, he's on a team. He just didn't play in the Final Four.
It's an exclusive club of two guys.
Yeah, you talk about the great Syracuse players in history. Yeah. I think you've got to put Trevor Cooney on that list for playing meaningful part in two Final Four games, Final Four teams.
And if you remember back, it was Cooney who took the last shot against Michigan. It wasn't very pretty, and it certainly didn't go in. It ended our season last time we were there in the Final Four.
Yeah, let's hope we can put that in the rearview mirror, and maybe it'll come up big in this year's Final Four.
So Yeah, Trevor Cooney, DeJuan Coleman really coming up pretty big for us at the end of that Virginia game on some rebounds. I mean, it's just like everybody is kind of starting to do what we had hoped they would do. And when they're doing it, we go from being a mediocre team to a team that right now might be playing as good as anybody in the country, including North Carolina and Oklahoma and Villanova. I mean, we are now, if you just did a top 20 ranking right now, it'd be tough to not put Syracuse in the top 20 over the past 2 weeks.
Top 20, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, that's a safe bet. They just beat Virginia, who was a top 5 team all season long. So yeah, I'd say they're a top 20 team now.
And killed, Gonzaga. All these games too, we weren't necessarily, except for Middle Eastern Tennessee State. We weren't expected to win. We were underdogs against Dayton, against Gonzaga, and then big underdogs against Virginia, underdogs again against North Carolina coming up next week. But, even at the end of that Gonzaga game, Cooney came up with those 3 big steals, and Gonzaga gave us their best shot, and in the end we pulled away and won. And Dayton didn't play very well. Middle Tennessee State didn't play very well. Gonzaga played pretty well, and Virginia played well to a point, but we're just destroying teams. We went on a 24-5 run against Virginia in the last 10 minutes of the game. That's crazy.
Gonzaga, I thought they played at a high level for the most part, until the last 4 minutes. I mean, they did exactly what they said they were going to do to beat that zone. They got it inside the Sabonis, and they had Wiltshire extend, in between the high post and being able to shoot threes. They did exactly what you're supposed to do against this zone, exactly what they said they were going to do against the zone, and it didn't work. They couldn't do enough of it, and they shut Sabonis down when it mattered. He was great. He didn't do a whole lot in the first half. Second half, in the first 15 minutes of the second half, he was the best player on the court, and then it stopped. And then they clamped down on him and forced some other guys to do some things they weren't comfortable doing. And they got some turnovers from McClellan and some forced shots from some of the other backcourt guys, and that was exactly what they needed. And I don't know, it's like Boeheim just has the right buttons to push when it comes down the end with this group. And I think we talk about how these guys get better as the season goes on. I think Jim Boeheim is becoming a better coach, in his 40th year than he was at any point previous. I mean, I think he just recognizes, I respect the hell out of his ability to diagnose a team, an opponent, and be able to exploit their weaknesses. I mean, the fact that the zone defense is able to do what it does, and it's not a secret. It's not like it's rocket science what the zone does. He teaches it to perfection.
And I think nobody understands. I mean, coaches watching the tape probably do, but even the players that Syracuse is going up don't understand how well that Syracuse plays that 2-3 zone. There's always someone coming at you from a direction that you wouldn't expect. You think you got an open jump shot? No, there's a guy in your face. You think you're gonna drive to your left? Nope, there's a big guy rotating over. You think you got an open clear path to the basket? No, Tyler Lydon's there. He's gonna contest it, and it's a thing of beauty. And I get a kick out of the people who say, "Well, Boeheim doesn't make adjustments," because they're looking at it like to make an adjustment, he needs to go to man or something. No, he makes adjustments within the zone, and they're unbelievable. They shut Wiltshire down after having the hot start. He didn't score for the whole second half of the second half, and the zone defense was great at the end of the Virginia game too. I mean, the press made the difference, but remember he's called off the press there, and they played it straight up, and really even in the beginning of the second half, they didn't come out and press right away. They played a pretty good, but they played pretty good up to that point to keep it within grasp. They just couldn't get it like under 8. They kept getting close, and the refs weren't helping. But of course, when he put that press on, it was just unbelievable what happened. And Brad, you said you documented the last several possessions.
Yeah, because I loved watching that game so much, I watched it again today, and I went through because I was just trying to understand, how much damage that press did. So what I did was actually jotted down what all the possessions did, just for fun. As I'm reading it right now, it's fun to even think about, because you go through the emotions of, man, that was 15 down, and wow, they're getting killed, and let's just play out the string, and they scored, and then they've got to stop and score, and so, as I'm walking through, I'll do this for you, because you'll remember what you were thinking at each point. So the worst of it, with 9.5 left, Parentes hit a three-pointer, hit his last three-pointer from the top of the key.
Right.
He hit it from about 24 feet away, so it's 54-39, 9.5 left. After that, Syracuse ran down court. Cooney penetrated. He got it to Roberson for a dunk. Driving and kick Roberson on the block. 54-41, 9:17 to go. It's like, oh, okay. But it was the same thing, like you were saying, Jim. It's like they couldn't get over the hump. They'd get it down to 9 points, 8 points, and then Virginia'd get a basket or they'd make a three or something like that. And so they're down 13. Brogdon had a drive. It's the side of the backboard. Doesn't even hit the rim. And they're in the press, mind you. So, things are sped up a little bit. 8:54 to go. So it was, 20 seconds or so since Syracuse scored. Leiden gets the rebound. Leiden outlets to Cooney. Cooney gets a driving layup. Syracuse down 11. 8:45 to go. UVA breaks the press. Thompson gets a layup. So now we're like, crap, we're down 13 again. 8.5. Richardson drives. He gets fouled. Makes both ends of 1-1 down 11. All right, we're kind of back and forth now. UVA breaks the press, but Gill travels. So again, you're seeing the speed of the game of UVA to the point where a big man who's, all he's got to do is catch, take one dribble, and dunk it or lay it in, travels on a 2-on-1. So Syracuse down 9. 8:17 to go. Richardson drives into Gill. Leads in with the shoulder, gets the basket, no foul was called. Syracuse down 11, now they're down 9, less than 8 to go. UVA breaks the press, Thompson's driving in, he gets stripped from behind by Vintage.
Yep.
We're down 9. Vintage outlets to Richardson, he attacks, he misses a layup. Roberson go after the rebound, was fouled. You remember he got hammered from behind, and the announcers thought the foul was on Roberson on over the top, but it was actually he got plowed into, and he crumbled onto Richardson, and you're hoping somebody's not injured. He goes timeout, but then Roberson comes back and 1-1, and he makes them both, so down 7. And that was as close as it had been since the first half. 7.5 to go. 7 points down.
And Brad, let me interrupt you at this point. At this point.
Now we're down 9 again. 7.5.
Well, hold on a second, Brad. I interrupted you here. At this point, when they got it to 7, it still felt like a monumental task. It still felt to me like, okay, we put that press on. We're getting there. Maybe we can chip away and still have a shot, at the end. But it just continued. And so, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's what as I go through this, I'm like, man, what was I thinking at each point? So yeah. I'm glad to hear that. So then UVA breaks the press, and then Hall gets in. Brogdon feeds Hall for a layup, and they're down 9. So again, just like you said, it's like, man, I just don't feel like UVA is going to let this slip away. And then this is when it gets crazy. So Syracuse is down 9. They get the ball back after that layup. Richardson hits the step back 3.
Yeah.
That's when this game turned. That point right there. All the stuff that happened before, that was a little bit of back and forth. There were some good plays, some good stops on defense. You could see it. You could see UVA getting affected, but it didn't feel like the game, like they were starting to lose it until the step back 3. Syracuse fans get going. The announcers are really sort of making a statement that, hey, Syracuse is starting to take control of this game. Then UVA makes a lob pass inbounds. They get that pass. Richardson jumps it, throws it off of Brogdon, out of bounds, Syracuse ball. 7 minutes left, down 6. All the momentum they could possibly have at that point in the game. So what happens after that? Leiden hits a 3 from about 24 feet. Syracuse now down 3. Just under 7 minutes, UVA calls timeout. And that was the thing. Like, you know, you talk about Tony Bennett wasn't, you know, he wasn't really doing much on the sideline. He didn't call that one timeout. You know, he probably should have called it sooner than that, I would think, to be able to adjust to what the press was doing and tell his team to slow down. He didn't. Finally did when they cut it to 3. But at that point, I mean, Syracuse was in command of that game. They were down 3, but it felt like we were up about 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, even at this point, it seems improbable because it seems like when you know, we got out to an 8-2 run to open that game, and I was thinking to myself, is it possible that we're going to, like, roll over these guys right now? And then, of course not. Came back to earth and really went in the tank. So you had to wonder, at this point, had Syracuse, you know, given all they could, and, you know, that run just had to stop. But, you know, and Virginia's so experienced that, you know, they're going to find a way to hold this off and win, but that wasn't the case. So continue on.
So then they come back out of timeout. UVA beats the press. Brogdon drives across the lane, takes a left-handed layup, contested layup, and misses. Benajay gets the rebound. 6 minutes 40 left. Benajay gets the rebound. He goes coast to coast. And I timed it, Jim, in 4 seconds. Brogdon missed at 6:41. Benajay scored at 6:37. Coast to coast. Syracuse is now down 1. And they flash on the screen that Syracuse has scored on 9 straight possessions. Yeah. I don't think there was probably a point this season where Syracuse scored on 9 straight possessions. Do you think?
No, and you know, 45 second half points against Virginia, one of the nation's top defenses. It's like it was unbelievable, and it was freshmen doing a lot of the damage for us. It was, yeah. I mean, go ahead, continue on. I'm enjoying this recap.
So then UVA gets it, they break the press, and then they finally slow it up. They finally got the message. Don't attack, slow it up, beat some clock, because they're still up 1. Still 58-57 at this point. Fuentes, after about 20 or 25 seconds on the shot clock, he dribbles in the lane and takes a runner and misses front rinsing. Benajay gets the rebound. 6 minutes left. And right before that happened, Dan Bonner said, this may be the key possession of the game on both ends. I wrote it down. And by God, it was, because Fuentes had the chance to up it to 3. Had a real easy chance. It was a runner. I mean, apparently Fuentes can only make it from 25 feet. He can't make it from 5 feet.
Right.
He missed. Benajay gets the rebound. Benajay brings it up, gets to Richardson on the left wing. He slashes for a left-handed layup. Syracuse up 1. That right there, I mean, when that flips from UVA lead to Syracuse lead, and as we all know, Syracuse never relinquished the lead the rest of the game from that point. So kudos to Dan Bonner for diving. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, you know, we could all sort of say a basket here, a basket there could turn this thing quicker than it did, but that was pretty pressing to him.
Yeah, when we got up 1, it was, I just couldn't believe that we actually had the lead. It was at that point where I felt we were going to win. And then it got to the point where the only way we could lose is if, you know, we blew it. You know, Benajay missed the front end of the first of free throws, and, you know, luckily Richardson and Leiden made the free throws, and with like 9 seconds left when Leiden went to the line and he made those, you know, I just couldn't believe that we were going to the Final Four. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I can believe it because I spent the last, you know, 12, 14 hours reading everything, you know, out there and watching and listening to every sports talk radio, you know, just soaking it in. We're there. We're in the Final Four. But, I mean, it was improbable. And 20 years from our last improbable run, I suppose, to the Final Four that involved incredible games, you know, in 96. But, you know, this usually doesn't happen to Syracuse. And taking it full circle to talk about, you know, Boeheim, he's crafted a system that is so well suited for the NCAA tournament. And you can't deny that's true with his recent success. And I think, you know, he's kind of perfected that system, and he can do it with any type of personnel as long as that personnel will buy in. I don't think this team was buying in so much throughout the season. And, of course, he wasn't even there for 9 games. And so finally now, after going through all that turmoil and, and probably a lot of self-doubt, they finally are putting it together. And it just goes to show that, that Boeheim's system is – Syracuse is not a team that you want to play in the NCAA tournament, whether it's the first round and they're a 2 seed or whether it's the Sweet 16 and they're a 10 seed, because it's just it's something you don't see very often. And while Virginia's seen it before, and they were handling it, to be honest with you, for much of the first half, although I'd argue that our defense was okay. It was our offense that was really holding us back. But it's just
the first half was brutal. There was no ball movement at all. It was all just one-on-one. It was all screens and hope he can get to the rim. I mean, there was something I had seen where Syracuse's I think Leiden's 3 that he made with his shoe off was the first time that Syracuse had scored a basket on their first chance on possession. So the only baskets up till that point they had were on putbacks or free throws, obviously. They couldn't generate anything on offense. They're driving in, they're hoping to get a call. They weren't able to. I mean, the referees were brutal in this game, by the way. We can talk about that for a long time. But, they weren't getting any calls when they're going into the lane and really trying to attack that pack line defense they called UVA, and they just weren't. It wasn't working, and they were. I think not only did the press speed up UVA, but it allowed Syracuse to get good looks on offense in the second half because the pace was faster, because they were getting it up court quickly. They weren't giving UVA a chance to set up, and they were spread a little bit more. The spacing was better, and I thought the ball movement was better. And so it was a night and day on offense in this game, really, from the first half to the second half, I thought.
Well, it was maybe I mean, maybe the best Syracuse basketball game I've ever seen in terms of just what was at stake and what the situation was, and the fact that we're coming off of these NCAA violations and Boeheim's going to the Final Four. Like I said, I always think that this Syracuse team or any Syracuse team, I always see like their highest potential. And that's kind of what I expect. So even if we're underdogs in a game, I always think that we can win. I honestly feel like we can win almost any time. But at this point in this Virginia game, at halftime or 5-10 minutes even into the second half, I didn't think we were going to win. I didn't think we could win. I didn't see how we could win. I wanted him to press. I was like, he's got to break that press out soon. Something's got to change. But I didn't even think that was going to work, especially against Virginia. So it's just, I'm struggling here to find the words. Obviously, 2003 game against Kansas, probably the greatest Syracuse game ever played. But you could make an argument that this is number 2 and not by that wide a margin. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely goes on a short list. I mean, there's certainly some games that I remember that were great, but 6 overtimes is very high on that list.
Yeah.
It wasn't a championship game by any means, but it's one that we'll always remember and remember fondly. The Georgia game in the Sweet 16 in '96 when Cipolla hits the buzzer shot and then Volek hits the shot to win. That's one that I think we'll always remember quite fondly. Beating Carolina to go to the Final Four in '87. You and I remember that game very well.
Yeah.
That's on a short list too. But we'll remember this one for the comeback, not so much for it wasn't like UVA is this giant juggernaut. You're not beating UCLA in the '70s by any means. They've never been to a Final Four in 30 some odd years. They aren't a very exciting team, but they're a good defensive team, a solid team. I think we'll remember this game because of the comeback and the way this team came together in the last 10 minutes of this game. To me, that's it goes on the short list of top 5 to 10 Syracuse games ever. Is it the greatest game? It's definitely up there. It's definitely one I will not forget for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, should apologize to our listeners here too for just not our normal quality of production here, especially on the audio side. I think being on remote, we were gonna maybe hold off on our next show until after the Final Four, when I could be back in the studio next Tuesday night. It would have been, and funny, Brad, because we were, we weren't thinking for a minute that it was going to be a Final Four show, that there would be one. Honestly, I always think that they can win, but this is the first time. I just feel like it's karma. I feel like at the back end of Boeheim's career, he's got a lot of karma to spend, and 3 Elite Eights in the last 5 years and 2 Final Fours in the last 5 years. Being on probation one of those years, I mean, it's paying off. I mean.
We've talked a lot about landmark wins and the most important this and the most important that. We talk about Pearl Washington being one of the most important Syracuse players, and John Wallace as well, because Syracuse is coming off a probation year when he came in and obviously led the team to the Final Four. I think we'll remember this team as one of the most important teams in recent history, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that the last year they weren't very good. They probably even made the tournament anyway. We'll never know. McCullough went down, and that hurt this team, and they didn't have a lot of depth. And Christmas was fantastic, but I don't think they had as much around him. But they weren't in the tournament. They're coming off probation. They've got a lot of scholarships. There was a real risk, and we talked about that during the course of the season. Are they a second-tier ACC team now? And we really hoped that wasn't the case. But they were 8th, 9th, 10th place in this conference during the course of this season. They're not one of the elite ACC teams since they've been in this league. This team, this run, puts this program back on the front burner in college basketball. It helps you get in front of recruits. It helps you bring in top guys who are questioning, is Mike Hopkins going to lead this program? I think the more that Boeheim can do in the next, assuming he's around for 2 more years, keep this program at an elite level so it can be left in very good hands when Mike Hopkins takes it over. I think, if this team had gone to the NIT, if it had ended with that Pitt game, I mean, you're coming off 2 years of being out of the tournament. A lot of questions going into next year. 2 more years of kind of a lame duck coach where you're going to get recruits. Is it going to make a difference? Like the whole dynamic has changed in the last 3 weeks. Literally, the whole paradigm of Syracuse basketball, I think, has changed in the last 3 weeks. And it frankly couldn't be at a better time the way this tournament has come together for this program.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's how I felt. It's like total vindication. Thinking, I have full confidence that next year's team was going to make a good run and that we are going to still maintain this level of excellence. But this year it seemed, it seemed possible. And just so happy for Jim Boeheim, really. I mean, if there's one guy that deserves something like this, it's Jim Boeheim. And for all those people that want to criticize, Jim Boeheim for whatever reason, I mean, this is the final vindication at this point. Obviously, we're going to go for a national championship next weekend. That would be, he deserves it. I think he's going to get one way or another. But if he happens to get it this year, which didn't even seem possible, even a week ago, if he gets this one, then the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit, and it's just I'm just so happy for Jim Boeheim. When one of all the images from the Gonzaga and Virginia game, the one that really got me was him holding that net after he cut it down. Just him holding that net up to the crowd. That really got me. So, yeah. Well, you know what, Brad?
You can tell that meant something to him.
It meant something to me, boy. I'm still reeling, and I apologize for a little bit for the production value of the show, also for the content. I'm on vacation down here, and I didn't spend as much time, prepping for the show as I normally do. I've just been living in like a dream world since last night. It's last time Syracuse went to the Final Four, I was in Orlando in Disney World, and it was great walking around, seeing all the Syracuse fans. You wouldn't believe how many of them were down there, and I'm getting a little bit of that up here too. As I'm in South Carolina. But it's funny. We went to a boardwalk on the beach, and they have a basketball, booth where you shoot for $1, you win, and you win team logo basketball. And they had Clemson, Florida State, Duke, North Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky. And the guy says, shoot, make a basket, $1 a shot or something. And I said, I'll come back and play your game when you get a Syracuse ball in here. So, but we're already deep into the hour here, but you have some great Orange trivia on the special Final Four edition of Conner's Corner.
It's funny, Jim, when you and I spoke a couple of days ago, I said if Syracuse wins, I'll have trivia, and if they lose, so I'm glad to have trivia for you this evening.
Yep.
And there's nothing like Final Four trivia when Syracuse is part of the Final Four. So, as promised, Final Four trivia. Who is the leading scorer for Syracuse in their Final Four history?
Leading scorer for Syracuse in Final Four history.
Who has the most points?
All the Final Four games. So, yeah, you're talking. So it would have to be. It couldn't be anybody from the last run where we only played one game. It would have been the other two, and I'm gonna go with Derek Coleman.
Derek Coleman's incorrect.
I'm gonna go with. See, John Wallace fouled out of that Kentucky game. I'm gonna go with Sherman Douglas.
Sherman Douglas is also incorrect. Derek Coleman had 20 points total in Final Four games. Sherman Douglas had 32 points total in Final Four games.
So then it must be Wallace.
John Wallace had 50 points total in Final Four games, and it is not the most.
50, you said? Oh, it's either GMAC or Carmelo. I'm gonna go with Carmelo.
Carmelo Anthony is correct. 53 points in Final Four games. He had 33 against Texas, and he had 20 against Kansas.
Yeah, I don't know why I was forgetting. Wasn't even thinking about the 2003 team at first. I was going on the earlier two.
It's funny. It's funny, guys of our era. We always probably think more fondly of '87, even though they lost, than we do of '03.
Yeah.
And there's no rational reason for it. It's just that was the team that we fell in love with.
Well, that team also had every right to win that game. They're every bit as much champions almost as 2003, except there's such a thin line, but yet it's such a wide gap, between winning and losing.
Hakeem Warwick blocks a shot. Keith Smart makes a shot. That's the difference between 2-0 and 0-2, really.
Yeah.
In championship games in those 2 years. That's crazy. So I said Carmelo was first, Wallace was second. He's tied for second. This is kind of obscure who the other one is he's tied with.
From the 75 Final Four team, Jimmy Lee?
That's correct. Good call. Of course, calling it obscure was a kind of a giveaway, but
Right.
So it's questionable whether we should count the 75 team because they played 2 Final Four games. One was a consolation game, and they don't do those anymore. So that one gets an asterisk.
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't have the shot clock or the three-point line either, so.
Yeah, Jimmy Lee had 23 against Kentucky in the Final Four, and in the consolation he had 27. So kudos to Jimmy Lee for representing Syracuse positively. Who has the most rebounds in Final Four in total Final Four games.
That's Derek Coleman.
That is definitely Derek Coleman. 31 rebounds for Derek Coleman. 12 against Providence, 19, as we all know, against Indiana.
Do you think Tyler Roberson might be able to beat that?
No, I do not.
I don't either, but if we win it all, he might. If we win this national championship, Roberson. Yeah. Well, hey, think about what needs to happen for us to win.
Bryce Johnson needs to come down with a severe case of the flu.
Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, go ahead.
Who has the most assists in Final Four play?
I'm gonna go with Lazarus Sims over Sherman Douglas.
That's an excellent call. You're absolutely right. Lazarus Sims had 16 assists in 2 games in '96. He had 9 against Mississippi State and 7 against Kentucky. Sherman Douglas had 6 against Providence, 7 against Indiana, 13 assists total. He's second on the list. So.
Okay.
That's a good call. Tyler Lydon just put himself in the NCAA record books after last night's game. He is 4th all-time on the list of freshman shot blockers in NCAA tournament play. Any idea who the top 3 are?
Top 3 freshman shot blockers in NCAA tournament play.
Not just Final Fours, but throughout the tournament. But to do it, you probably ought to play in a Final Four just because you maximize your games.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have a tough time knowing where to start on this one. Let me ask you this: are any of the other guys Syracuse guys?
No, but they're all NBA guys. 2 are in the NBA now. 1 was is a retired NBA guy.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Alonzo Mourning.
Yeah, good call.
Okay. Well, I was thinking Mutombo, but then I thought, no, not Mutombo, and then I thought about Mourning might be in there.
Well, I don't know if Mourning played in the Final Four. I was going to look that up. I don't remember Georgetown playing in. They may have played 1 since the Ewing days. But I don't think it was Mourning's team.
I think they at least got to the Elite 8, but yeah. So we got Mourning. What about David Robinson?
Incorrect.
What about?
I guess, but no.
What about Olajuwon?
No, incorrect. Surprisingly. Well, actually, yeah, maybe not surprisingly, because I don't know if he played too much as a freshman.
Not a great shot blocker. Ralph Sampson?
No.
Oh, how about Patrick Ewing?
He wasn't a great shot blocker.
Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing's incorrect, surprisingly. I would have thought he would have been high on that list. Remember, he got those 2 goaltends in the first, 3 minutes against Carolina as a freshman in that championship game.
Which were intentional. John Thompson said that he told Ewing to do that.
Yeah, right. That's right. I heard that. Didn't really help him.
Yeah, let's see here.
One was recent within the last 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know. Better give me these for the sake of time.
Anthony Davis.
Oh yeah, okay.
Anthony Davis had 29 blocks as a freshman in the tournament, and they won the championship, so he played the maximum games. Kevin Love had 20. Kevin Love played for UCLA. And Mourning had 19. Tyler Lydon 18. So if Tyler Lydon gets 2 more blocks against Carolina or Oklahoma or Villanova, he will be second all time as a freshman in shot blocks in the tournament. And if he has 11 more, he can break Anthony Davis' all-time record.
Well, and you could put Tyler Lydon up against any of those guys we mentioned physically, I mean,
Yeah, right.
it's guy's got a lot of heart, and guy hit some huge shots for us. On top of it, it's and Boeheim gave him kudos in his post-game presser. Basically taking a shot at everybody that said that he couldn't play center, which was us too. We both said it. So these guys are just. I love that we're big dogs to North Carolina. Bring it on. That's what this team thrives on.
Yeah, agreed. They're playing with house money right now. I don't think they care that teams are coming in with more acclaim or that are, a bit more physical, or better athletes or anything. I don't think this team cares. I think this team believes in their schemes and believes in what they've got, and they all are bought in.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I think teams right now are intimidated by Syracuse, which is crazy. As a 10 seed and a team that came in, 10th in their league practically, I think teams are intimidated by Syracuse a little bit. I think the zone it gets into guys' heads. They say it doesn't, and Gonzaga was, talking all kinds of junk about how, we've seen a lot of zones. Portland played zone against us.
Yeah, right.
St. Mary's zone does a couple of possession plays. Seriously? Are you going to go there?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree that other teams are probably a little intimidated because it's just such a wild card. I mean, the defense, everybody hears about it, and we've seen it do its thing in 2013, and we see the defensive stats that they've put up in this tournament so far. But now the offense has come alive. Like, we have so many options. Cooney is now our fourth or fifth option, where all throughout the regular season he was option number 2. And you got to be scared of a guy like a confident Malachi Richardson. You got to be scared of that. And you got to be shaking your boots every time Tyler Lydon squares up for 3. And the guys inside are doing just enough, mainly keeping rebounds alive, and Roberson doing a decent job finishing at the hoop.
You got to be afraid of boxing out Roberson. I mean, that's a guy you got to find and you got to put a body on him. And I don't think too many teams have done a good job with that in this tournament. And they were saying, the announcers were saying a lot about that. That they didn't think Gonzaga or UVA was doing a very good job of trying to find him. I mean, he's been as active in these games as anything all season, maybe with the exception of the Duke game when he went crazy. But this is the Tyler Roberson we've been wanting to see. I mean, not necessarily offensively, but just keeping balls alive and tapping it back to himself and tapping it to other guys. Just being active and engaged, and not just sort of on the fringes, which we've seen from time to time.
Well, let's kick it ahead and look at this Final Four. I mean, ideally, Syracuse beats North Carolina and faces Villanova in the championship game with an old Big East feel to it. And I was kind of rooting for Notre Dame, not only because I think they're a better matchup for us, but because it would have been 2 ACC teams, yes, but 2 former Big East ACC teams along with Villanova. Would have been a beautiful thing. I mean, there can only be so many more years where I hang on to this Big East thing, but this would have been one of them. But we can still get that Syracuse-Villanova final. And honestly, like you mentioned, trying to get respect in this new league here, what better way than to knock off North Carolina in the Final Four and be the ACC representative in the final game when they had, all these teams in the Sweet 16. So, and then there's Oklahoma too, which I think Syracuse almost matches up better with Oklahoma than Villanova, just because I think the more unfamiliar a team is with us in the postseason, the better chance that we have of beating them soundly. So, what's your take, Brad, on heading into next weekend for Syracuse?
It's the same North Carolina team we've seen twice already. They're as athletic as anybody in the country. That's a tough matchup. It's always been a tough matchup. But Syracuse has proven that they can drag Carolina down into a bit of more of a slugfest. I mean, Carolina's had very few games this season where they've played in the 70s, and maybe only 1 or 2 that they played in the 60s. But Syracuse beat them or lost them with 75-70 in Chapel Hill, and I think that says that Syracuse can slow them down. But can they do enough offensively? I think that's going to be the challenge. The Carolina's not a great defensive team, but you need Richardson to be to be the driving, slashing, attacking aggressor that he was yesterday. You need Vintage to be hitting shots. I don't even think you necessarily need Cooney, but you need Lydon to have a good inside-out game. I think the biggest thing on defense is you need to contain Bryce Johnson. You need to keep him out of the paint as much as possible. I think if they can do to him what they did to Sabonis in the second half or in the down the stretch against Gonzaga, I think they're different players, but I think they presented a similar challenge, Sabonis and Bryce Johnson. He's averaging a double-double. He's a guy they run a lot through. Marcus Page is a great guard, smart, senior, but offensively I don't think he scares me as much as Bryce Johnson does. Yeah. If they can contain Bryce Johnson and prevent random guys like Joel Berry or Nate Britt to go off from three, which I think we've unfortunately seen from this team against Syracuse, they get this random guy that goes makes 3 or 4 threes against us. If they can do all those things and get out and make shots, make open shots, don't get stagnant on defense or on offense like they did in the first half, I think they've got a good chance. And I do think that Carolina's got everything to lose and not as much to get. They have every reason to play tight like Virginia did in the second half. Whereas Syracuse, they're playing loose, they're playing confident, they're going to be aggressive. It's not like the world is watching them. Everybody thinks you're going to lose, so that's probably the best situation for them.
Yeah, and I think heading into this North Carolina game that they are feeling like they're almost laughing probably when they look at that line or they hear people say, that they don't have any chance or this run's coming to an end. I think they're almost laughing to themselves because I think they know they're going to make a game of it. I think they feel like they're going to win. In a real genuine way, not even convincing themselves. I just feel like they feel like they're a team of destiny that can't lose at this point. I mean, how could you not after the run they're on?
If they had played North Carolina a week ago, I'm not sure they would have felt that way like they do now. I think those 2 victories over this past weekend really gave them probably more confidence than they've had at any point, certainly this year and probably in the last several years. To be able to beat those 2 teams who were playing, UVA destroyed Iowa State. That wasn't even close. UVA was playing at a high level. Gonzaga was playing at a high level. Gonzaga, Utah, and Seton Hall right before that. These are teams that, they didn't squeak by their previous opponents. They drilled their previous opponents. They come up against Syracuse and are an entirely different team. And I think there's every reason to think that Carolina's seeing that trend and thinking, man, we may have to change things up a little bit, or we may have to think a little bit differently when we come up against this team. And maybe we're not going to be able to do what we've been doing to be successful because that didn't work for Virginia, and it didn't work for Gonzaga, and it didn't work for Dayton. So I don't know. I think there's more doubt in the minds of Carolina than there would be in the minds of Syracuse. Hey, let's do our thing. It's been working tremendous so far, and let's see where it takes us.
And remember this. If there's one team that Trevor Cooney has historically played well against or shot well against, it's North Carolina. So maybe he's the one that maybe he drops in 6 3-pointers. And, we're going to need guys to step up, obviously, to win that game offensively. And coming off the last game, you'd like to think it would be Malachi Richardson. But, the way things kind of work, I would expect it to be Benajay, who, he had an off game against Virginia offensively. Malcolm Brogdon really shut him down. But then once Richardson got going, they put Brogdon on Richardson, and Richardson tore him up. It was like Benajay is one of the greatest one-on-one, get his own shot players in the country, really.
He looked like an NBA guy.
And Richardson just owned Brogdon, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year during that final stretch. That if you really look at that first step back 3, it's just an amazing move. He totally broke.
That was an NBA move. That's Dwayne Wade hit shots like that. Steph Curry hit shots like that. That's something you don't see college guys do.
Well, let me ask you.
He hit the other 3 right over Brogdon. Right in Brogdon's face.
Yeah.
Making him down and did the goggles afterwards.
So let me ask you this. At this point, is Malachi Richardson going to be back next year at Syracuse?
There wouldn't even have been a question 2 days ago about that. Now, there is a question, yeah. I didn't think Tyler Ennis was going to be a pro until he hits a half-court shot against Pitt, and then, sayonara.
Yeah.
If Malachi Richardson has at least one 20-point game in the Final Four, I think he's gone.
Yeah, which, I think, what I think doesn't matter in these situations. Generally, these kids go the minute their name pops up in the first round, or in the case of some guys, when their name pops up in the late second round. But from Richardson's perspective, he's definitely not, no matter what happens, he's probably not a lottery pick. And he comes back next year, he's going to be picking up at least 5 to 10 more shots a game. And he's really got a chance to, develop his game, get stronger, and move into the lottery. So I think in this particular case, I think we will see Richardson back regardless. But again, what I think about that doesn't matter because these kids usually just jump whenever they get a chance.
Yeah, we don't know about their personal situations either. That always plays into it. So it's a lot of the reasons guys go. A lot of times you can't fault them for it. Tyler Ennis, Boeheim didn't like the decision. He told him so, and I think we all agreed that it probably wasn't the right thing. And he's getting a couple minutes, and he's becoming a better basketball player probably. Being able to focus on his game, but it'd be nice if we had him on this team, and I think he would have blossomed as a contributor and scorer and a top national player, and he stuck around.
I think the only person that probably, in the last, since Carmelo Anthony, I'd probably say the only person that looked back on it and say, yeah, I'm glad I did it, was Jeremy Grant. I can't think of it.
It's worked out pretty well for him.
But, maybe Chris McCullough is glad he did it. Chris McCullough should be on this team right now. I mean, can you imagine what a difference maker he would have been for this team? But who knows if he's happy with his decision or not. We know it was nice at the end of that game, celebrating on the court with Syracuse, was Raheem Christmas. Did you see that?
Yeah, and so was C.J. Fair and Tyler Ennis.
Yeah, which, Ennis could have been on that team. But especially for Christmas, a guy who had to weather that forgotten season last year, I was really glad to see him, out there with the rest of the team. So Brad,
he was on that 2013 Final Four team, but he was kind of a part-time player and not much of a contributor. And yeah, when he was the man, there wasn't much around him. So I think he probably wish he could be a part of a team like this, like an active part of the team. Imagine what this team could be if they'd had him, if they just timed it or they had him inside, and you wouldn't have had to rely on Coleman quite as much, and Leiden could roam around outside a little bit more.
Well, we're coming up here on an hour. We're probably going to go just a little over, and I need your official prediction before we get out of here. And I'll let you go first. You there, Brad?
Yeah, I lost you there for a second.
Oh, I want your official prediction on the outcome this weekend.
Oh, as much as I would love to say Syracuse is going to win the national championship, I just think Carolina's got too much fire. I think Carolina wins that game 78-74.
Yeah, that's easy. That's an easy call to make. Nobody's going to disagree with you there. I tell you, I got a lot of faith in Jim Boeheim over Roy Williams. And I really, if you reevaluate this team now and throw out all the stuff that happened this year and just look at what we got now, I'll take. Sure, we are a little lacking on the front course against guys like Bryce Johnson and company, but I'll take Benajay, Richardson, and Leiden even, and Cooney over North Carolina's perimeter players. And why not? I think we got it. I think what goes around comes around for the Cuse, and we win that game, and then who then set up a Monday final against hopefully Villanova, which would just be it'll be almost too much to take. So my official prediction on that Syracuse North Carolina game is I think high score. Syracuse 77, North Carolina 73. 4-point win.
All right. I got it as a 4-point loss, so I respect that.
Well, we're going to be back one more time, one way or another, probably next Tuesday night. I'll be back in the studio. Brad will still be in Cincinnati, but the production value will be a little better than what.
So you shortchanged your prediction. They're going to beat Carolina, and then what?
Oh man, I haven't thought ahead that far. If they play Oklahoma, I like our chances to win. If we play Villanova, I think you flip a coin, which is probably opposite of what Vegas would think.
Yeah, so I will tell you, if Syracuse can somehow get past Carolina, I think Syracuse wins the national championship. I do, because I think they know how to play against Villanova. I don't think that Jay Wright's got Boeheim's number, like, Jamie Dixon and Patino. I think, that's it. But you say that'll be a toss-up game, but I do think Syracuse can defend Villanova, because I think they played teams of that style before and done well. I think with Oklahoma, I see Oklahoma as a lot like Gonzaga and UVA, where Buddy Hield is going to go off and shoot from 30 feet, and probably knock down 5 or 6, but let him do that as long as you contain everybody else, which is what Syracuse was able to do against Virginia and Gonzaga. So I think Syracuse wins against either Oklahoma or Villanova. As long as they get past Carolina, I don't think they will, but I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, if that was Oklahoma, that matchup would remind me of the Indiana game, 2013, where everybody thought we were going to lose because they had, who was the stud shooter they had? Indiana, big time scorer. He was. No, he was a Player of the Year candidate. I can't believe I can't think of his name, but we totally shut him down because he'd never seen anything like the defense that we threw at him. So I think the more unfamiliar team is with us, the better in the NCAA tournament, which is just a masterful play by Coach Boeheim. He's got an advantage in the NCAA tournament that no other coach in America has with that defense that he's committed to. And once again, he's proven his critics wrong, and let's hope it continues next Monday. So
That's the guy you're thinking of.
That's right. Victor Oladipo. Yeah. So Buddy Hield, Victor Oladipo, same thing. If we play Oklahoma, but first things first. Let's get by North Carolina and Brad. We talked directly after that Virginia game last night, and that could have been a podcast. I should have just hit record on the phone.
We had a lot of emotion, a lot to talk about last night.
But who knows what's going to happen this weekend, or what we could be talking about next Tuesday night. So I look forward to it. Win or lose for the Cuse. We'll wrap up the Upstate Orange Podcast back in studio next Tuesday night, and enjoy the games, Brad.
You do the same. Hoping for shades of 87 on the Syracuse-Carolina game Saturday night.
Yep. We were underdogs in that game too, I believe. So, anyways, here from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Jim Sinicropi here on the Upstate Orange Podcast, and Saturday night, late game. Syracuse is in the Final Four. It's hard to believe, and enjoy the ride. I mean, the best thing I think about hitting this stride and winning in the regional Elite Eight is that we get this whole week to just soak it in. We're one of 4 teams left, and let's see if next week at this time we're one of 2 teams left. So for the Professor, Brad Conner, I'm Jim Sinicropi saying so happy for Jim Boeheim, and come on, let's go Orange.